Prices for organic food are typically higher than those for non-organically cultivated food. Yet why are organic foods more expensive? And is the added cost justified? I adore food produced organically. But I don't like how much it costs. I can purchase organic onions for $1.29 a pound at my neighborhood natural food store. However, typical supermarkets nearby sell onions that have been cultivated for commercial purposes for 69 cents per pound. For a pound of nutritious food, neither price is particularly excessive, but for many families who are already struggling to make ends meet, the cumulative effect of choosing a higher price might be overwhelming. Roger Cohen, a journalist for the New York Times, went as far as to say in 2012 that organic ideology is an elitist, pseudoscientific indulgence. He is not the only one who has this thought. However, I doubt you'd be successful in persuading migrant farm workers that opting for organic food is elitist. It comes as no surprise that many of them lead difficult lives, frequently putting in excruciatingly long hours while living in subpar housing and receiving inconsistent pay. Several of them are figuratively being poisoned at work, which is another factor. Farm workers are more likely than any other group of employees to experience chemical-related diseases and injuries due to pesticide exposure. The main cause of the claimed 49-year average life expectancy for migrant farm workers in the U.S. is the pesticides used to grow non-organic food. Additionally, it would be difficult to persuade Terry McCall of Cambria, California, that eating organic food is exclusive. Anthony Jackson, Jack McCall, Terry's spouse of 40 years, passed away from terminal cancer in 2015. Jack had used the pesticide Roundup on his 20-acre fruit and vegetable farm for nearly 30 years. In 2016, Terry filed a wrongful death case against Monsanto, now Bayer, citing a fast-expanding body of data connecting Roundup to cancer. She alleged that the company had known for years that exposure to glyphosate, the main ingredient in the agribusiness giant's flagship weed killer, could cause cancer and other serious illnesses or injuries. And she blamed the company for her husband's death. As of this writing, the lawsuit is ongoing, as are more than 11,000 others like it. And some of them are gaining significant traction. Roundup, like hundreds of other widely used synthetic herbicides and insecticides, is banned in organic agriculture. But what about yield? Organic crops have historically had a per-acre yield found to be about 10 to 20% lower than large-scale industrialized monocultures. But before we jump into hysterics about the need for pesticides and petrochemical fertilizers in order to feed humanity, let's put this in perspective. Nearly half of the world's crop calories become feed for poultry, pork, cattle, and even farmed fish, not food for humans. It can take between 4 and 12 pounds of feed to produce 1 pound of meat, eggs, or dairy products. The vast majority of the calories animals consume are turned into hoof, hide, bone, or manure and expended as energy that the animals use to live. The majority of animal feed is, in a caloric sense, wasted. In The Global Benefits of Eating Less Meat, Mark Gold and Jonathan Porritt write that after factoring in all inputs, the world's cattle alone consume a quantity of calories equal to the caloric needs of 8.7 billion people, more than the entire human population on Earth. If we're serious about feeding humanity, shouldn't we consider eating less meat, so we could turn less of our cropland into livestock feed, freeing up more of it to grow food sustainably for humans? How organic can work? When it's practiced well, organic agriculture can lead to crops that are more resistant to droughts and floods, which climate change is making increasingly common. It can also enable a more diverse agricultural output, which means that you might get less of one monocrop, but you'll get more diversity and, in many cases, more net food value per acre. If your metric is health per acre, small-scale organic farming often wins by a large margin. In 2013, the UN Conference on Trade and Development issued a landmark report titled Trade and Environment Review 2013, Wake Up Before It's Too Late. The report concluded that small-scale organic farming is the only way to sustainably feed the world for future generations. It called for a rapid and significant shift from conventional, monoculture-based and high external input-dependent industrial production towards mosaics of sustainable, regenerative production systems that also considerably improve the productivity of small-scale farmers. But so far, many governments and research institutions are pushing in the opposite direction. Over the course of the last century, billions of dollars have been spent researching and promoting chemical-intensive, pesticide-laden forms of agriculture. With only a tiny fraction of those resources, organic agricultural researchers are continually finding breakthroughs and developing methods that are increasing yield, sequestering carbon out of the atmosphere, and creating more nutritious and resilient crops. Can you trust organic? Each country has its own form of organic certification. The United States uses the USDA organic label, which indicates that the food or other agricultural product has been produced through methods that integrate practices that foster cycling of resources, promote ecological balance, and conserve biodiversity. Sewage sludge, irradiation, genetic engineering, and most synthetic pesticides and fertilizers may not be used. European products certified organic by EcoCert carry a very similar set of requirements. While enforcement could always be stronger, both the USDA organic and the EcoCert labels provide a significant measure of confidence to the consumer. Maintaining the integrity of organic certification takes vigilance. Organizations such as the Organic Consumers Association point out that large-scale corporate agribusiness has chosen to invest heavily in organic food production. Now that transnational corporations are out to make money off the organic brand, many of them push to drive down standards. As consumers, we have to be attentive to make sure that the real meaning of organic foods doesn't get diluted. Why are organic food prices higher than others? Part of the answer is that organic certification is expensive. It can cost farmers many thousands of dollars to certify their farm. And the cost and regulatory burden of certification can be especially hard on smaller farms. In effect, organic farmers get penalized for growing food in a way that protects the fertility of the soil and spares farmworkers and the entire web of life, including us, from poisons. Imagine what would happen if this were reversed. What if all the farms that used pesticides and chemical fertilizers had to pay a fee for their environmental contamination and were subject to inspections? What if the organic farmers had a lower, instead of a higher regulatory burden? The economics of organic food would change in an instant. If we had more sane food policies, organic food would cost less than it does now. But until that time, the frustrating reality is that it can still be difficult to afford for a great many people. The health harms of pesticides. Pesticides have been linked to a wide range of human health hazards, ranging from short-term problems, such as headaches and nausea, to chronic impacts, like reproductive harm and endocrine disruption. Pesticides have also been linked to many types of cancer, including non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, as well as brain, breast, ovarian, prostate, stomach, testicular, and liver cancers. In 2010, scientists at the University of Montreal and Harvard University released a study that found that exposure to pesticide residues on food may double a child's risk of ADHD. Another study conducted by researchers at the Public Health Institute, the California Department of Health Services, and the UC Berkeley School of Public Health found a six-fold increase in risk factors for autism spectrum disorders for children of women who were exposed to organochlorine pesticides in their environment during pregnancy. In response to worries about eating foods sprayed with neurotoxic poisons, as well as concerns about the social and environmental implications of pesticides, more and more consumers are buying organically grown foods. Does consuming organic food really reduce your body's burden of toxic chemicals? Seeking to answer that question, Liza Oates, PhD, and a team at RMIT University in Australia randomly selected 13 adults. The research team fed some an organic diet and others a non-organic diet. The study found that a mostly organic diet for only 1 week led to a 90% reduction in pesticide levels detected in urine. Which foods carry the most pesticides? Fortunately, not all conventionally grown foods carry large amounts of pesticides. The Environmental Working Group, EWG, analyzed pesticide residue testing data from the U.S. Department of Agriculture and the Food and Drug Administration to come up with rankings for 46 popular fresh produce items in the United States. You can find them listed below, in order from most contaminated to least. Lower number rankings indicate more pesticide contamination. The first 12 are what EWG refers to as the dirty dozen, the most pesticide-contaminated foods, and the last 15 are what they refer to as the clean 15, the least pesticide-contaminated foods. Editor's note, the EWG lists below have been updated to reflect their 2022 Guide to Pesticides in Produce. The dirty dozen, highest pesticide contamination, by organic if at all possible. Strawberries, spinach, kale, collards, and mustard greens. Nectarines, apples, grapes, bell and hot peppers, cherries, peaches, pears, celery, tomatoes. The middle 19, medium pesticide contamination, moderately important to buy organic. Potatoes, blueberries, cherry tomatoes, winter squash, lettuce, cucumbers, tangerines, green beans, plums, broccoli, eggplant, raspberries, summer squashes asterisk, grapefruit, snap peas, oranges, carrots, bananas, cauliflower. The clean 15, lower pesticide contamination, least important to buy organic. Avocados, sweet corn asterisk, pineapples, onions, papayas asterisk, sweet peas, frozen, asparagus, honeydew melons, kiwis, cabbages, mushrooms, cantaloupes, mangoes, watermelons, sweet potatoes. Asterisk a small amount of sweet corn, papaya, and summer squash sold in the United States is produced from genetically modified seeds. Buy organic varieties of these crops if you want to avoid genetically modified produce. While these rankings are based on data taken in the United States, it's probable, given the global nature of food distribution systems, that numbers are similar in many other countries. But we don't know this with certainty. I'm often asked whether people who can't afford organic foods should steer clear of conventionally grown fruits and vegetables. The answer is an unequivocal no. Hundreds of medical studies have illustrated the huge health benefits of eating fruits and vegetables. Most of the fruits and vegetables eaten in the studies that have found these tremendous benefits were grown conventionally, with pesticides. If you can afford organic, I encourage it. And if you can't, then I hope you won't let that stop you from eating and enjoying a vast array of fruits and vegetables. Let's not make the perfect the enemy of the good. Researchers have found that pesticide residues can persist on many fruits and vegetables. So especially if it's not grown organically, you may want to wash produce. Plain water appears to be just as effective as, and a lot less costly than, using commercial produce cleaners. If you want to go a step further, you can create a baking soda solution, folding in 1 ounce of baking soda for every 100 ounces of water. Studies have demonstrated that soaking produce in this solution for 15 minutes will remove most pesticide residues.